I'm John Grafft, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good
To see you.
Almost fell there. So I've been coming here for years.
Yeah.
One of my good friends used to bartend and manage here, and one of my favorite people and one of my favorite places. And I was here at least once a week.
Well, thank you.
And I saw somewhere that there was funds being released. First I saw you closed, and I was so saddened.
Right.
And then I saw that there were funds being released, and you were talking about reopening.
Right.
And that's when you and I started engaging.
Right.
So what is the current status?
So we got a grant from the state of Illinois, a business interruption grant, which was out of nowhere. You know, you apply for all these things, you don't know what you're getting. And right around Christmas time, I saw that we had gotten it. I was very excited, and I said, oh, this is fantastic. If the Congress approves the PPP plan and the COVID relief, then I think I can reopen. So sure enough, they passed that, and I just literally yesterday completed my application for the next round of PPP.
Fantastic.
And so it looks like we're going to get that, which means we'll be able to open as soon as the state of Illinois says it's okay to open, which I think will probably be summer.
Okay.
For us to be able to bowl.
Yes.
Because right now I think there's 25% allowed, but that doesn't really work here.
Why is that?
Well, because I think people, when they come to Southport Lanes, it's all about bowling, billiards, hanging out with people, having parties, and limited to 25 people, not much of a party. And so I think, and also if you bowl, you can't eat or drink. You can't have your mask off. So I think we have to wait till we get back to some degree of normalcy, I think, and then we'll be able to do it.
One of the things I always loved is you have real pool tables.
Yes.
You have real bowling. I mean, you have people in the back, pin setters, right? That's the
Correct.
term?
Yeah, we're the last place left in Chicago. Maybe even, I think nobody in Chicago. I think there's one up in Milwaukee called Holler House, which has 2 lanes. But I don't know of anybody else that's got manually set pins. So we have pin boys back there, setting your pins.
And what would that look like? Let's go take a look at that.
Absolutely. So here are the 4 lanes, and the way we have it set up is there's 1 pin boy for every 2 lanes.
Okay.
For each of the 2 lanes. So there'll be 1 pin boy on this side, 1 pin boy over there. I should say pin setter. I don't mean to be sexist. Women can do it too, but in general, they're male.
Okay.
Anyway, so if you bowl here, the pin boy stands on the other lane, and when the next bowler comes up here, the pin boy has somewhere to go.
Okay.
So that way you don't kill them.
Can we see the space?
Yeah, absolutely.
That they operate in?
You can walk on the lanes today because we're not in operation. But it's.
So I noticed, I'm like, is there a wax on this?
There is, yeah, there's an oil. So
oil, okay.
Yeah, it's an oil so that the ball grabs at different points, so you can hook it into the lane. So this, if you come back here, you can take a look. You can see sort of these are called semi-automatic machines. So the pins, they put them back in there, and if you're really adventurous, you can slide here. But if you're wearing nice clothes, I would not recommend it. So they drop the pins in wherever the pins have been, picked up from there, and they put the ball on a track, and it just is gravity. It just comes down this little, you can see it over here. They put it on the track and it rolls down there and gets up to the ball return on the other side.
It's more straightforward than I would have ever imagined.
Yes.
Seeing it from this angle. And Adam, you're going to go back there at the end. That's cool. And so what's the story of Southport Lanes? I've heard a lot of things. I want to hear it out of your mouth.
Yes, well, the history of Southport Lanes. So it started as a place built by the Schlitz Brewing Company back at the turn of the last century. And then it was ruled you could not have a manufacturer of alcohol also sell at retail.
Okay.
So that created what's called the 3-tier system. So you have manufacturers, you have retailers, you have distributors. Never the 3 shall meet. Right?
Is that in this state?
That's across the country.
Across the
country. It was a federal rule.
Okay.
Federal law, I should say. And then so they made that unconstitutional, I think. And then it was a Schlitz brew house called the Nook, I think. And then Prohibition hit in 1922. And that's when the lanes were put in. So where the bar is, the bar got remodeled to what you see today. And then this became a bowling alley, 4 lanes, much as it is today. And that became a speakeasy. And of course, with every speakeasy, you gotta have a brothel. So there's a brothel upstairs.
Okay. And what does that look like today? What's upstairs?
It's our offices and the bathrooms.
Okay.
But I will say there's still a dumbwaiter where they used to bring the drinks up to the girls. And if you go up there, you can still see it. I don't know if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Anyway, so that was around 1922 to the end of Prohibition in 1933, and then became just neighborhood tavern. It got named Southport Lanes, I want to say, right around the 40s.
Okay.
And then the other room, which we should walk into in a minute, is the pool room. That became a social hall. Although just prior to the social hall, it became an off-track betting facility.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where, if you go around off-track betting, there was phone line. We found 100 phone lines coming into the building.
Oh wow.
And so the former owner, Leo Bites, told me, oh yeah, it was a gambling joint right out of the movie The Sting.
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie?
A little bit.
So Robert Redford, Paul Newman. Anyway, they had an off-track betting place. Anyway.
Was OTB legal then, or is this?
No, completely illegal.
Okay.
So that's the thing. It was a brothel. Of course, you had a gambling joint. There was a secret room where Mayor Cermak, this is according to Leo, the former owner, he told me they used to have a card game every week. Of course, all these things. And then it became finally a polling facility.
A poll.
Yeah, so the neighborhood can come vote, which is completely illegal because you can't serve alcohol anywhere you can vote.
Okay.
But why let some rules stop you at this point,
It's the history of Chicago.
Yeah, that's right. It's the city. So anyway, so then it became a hall for rent. And I think the funniest thing is we had people that had gotten married here, and then somebody came back and had their 75th anniversary.
Oh wow.
Or something, and I said, for you, same prices. What did you show me the bill? And
That's so cool.
Maybe it was some long. It was either 50 or 70. It was crazy long, and so they paid the exact same amount that they paid whatever prior to that. There's a DJ on XRT, Marty Leonard's.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of him. Mm-hmm. His parents got married in the hall. Wow. Which is funny because he said that on the air, and I'm like, huh, when we closed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But anyway, so that's the basic history of Southport Lanes, and maybe we'll walk around and show you some of those the murals, which on the
That's
like
this.
this.
Is this original?
This is not original. We
Okay.
did this in 1997 for our 75th anniversary, and this really mirrors what's going on behind the bar. And there's a mural behind the bar which is original to 22, which shows all these nymphs and gives you an idea of what's going to happen upstairs should you visit the House of Ill Repute. That was upstairs. And then this was just a reproduction of something. But they did a great job.
It looks beautiful. Yeah, I had to ask. It didn't look as old, so I didn't think it was. But they really captured everything that is in the other one. Let's go look at that.
Terrific artist.
And when did you get this? How did you come involved?
So I bought it with a partner, Howard Natinsky, back in 1991. And at that time, this place was really a bowling alley that was only open at certain times. It was kind of closed to the public. It felt like a private club when you came in.
Okay.
And they would put a sign on the door every August that said "Gone Fishing," and they would leave, close up for a month. You can't do that now.
Yeah.
So anyway, we renovated it back then. We actually renovated it a couple times. So you can see the mural here. This is original. Dates back to 1922, and that bar is also original to 1922. The dumbwaiter is behind the shoe cabinet.
Over there?
Yeah. You can't get to it from here.
No, you can see it
But we'll see
upstairs.
it from upstairs if we want to go up there. If we want to brave it to go up there. Another funny thing. Remember phone booths?
Yes.
So this is an original phone booth that we found in the closet right over here. This was an angled wall. This was where the secret room was for Mayor Cermak.
Got it.
So this phone booth, which is just this part of it, of course, there's no phone in here anymore. But when, what's the name of it? AT&T, would install these phone booths. It was owned by originally Illinois Bell, which is a subsidiary.
Yeah, I remember Illinois Bell.
Illinois Bell, and then that became Ameritech, I think. Anyway, they came in to service the phone, and they said, oh yeah, we have it right here. It was installed in whatever date. We own it, just so you know, but you can keep it until and then they never came back to get it. But I'm like, that's great, because it's a nice, we don't do anything with it, but it should be something. Maybe it should be a private cell phone booth.
It fits the whole vibe of
It
the bar.
does. It does. So why don't we go into the pool room?
Let's do it.
It was a big, knotty pine, looked like a supper club. But in this wall right here, when we opened this up, that's where we found 100 phone lines.
Right there?
Yeah, it was in that wall, and I was like, what the heck was going on here? And that's what he asked Leo, and he said, and this is when we did that in 1991. Because we redid it a little bit, but he said, yeah, this was the off-track betting place. There were no windows when we got here. We put those in to open it up. We actually put the wood paneling in, and I put a vintage tin ceiling in.
You added this? Because this is beautiful.
It is. That was not here.
Okay.
But I thought it fit the time
period.
It
so fits. I would have never guessed that you added this.
Thank you. That was compliments of me.
One of my favorite things about this place is you had all of this in a time where these things seem to be dying.
Yes, exactly.
If you want to play pool in Chicago, and I like playing pool, the closest place to my house that I know of, I think, is Marquee Lounge.
Right.
And then I think it's you after that.
I think you're right. I think we've had the pool tables here since we started in 1991, and they've been going, and actually hasn't really gone down. People still rent it at the same level since 90. It's been really, really good.
Yeah.
It's a place, it's something to do while you're hanging out with some friends. Something, have a drink, hang out, impress people, and it worked. It's worked for a long time. I hope we get to reopen and get to use them again.
When you reopen, do you have any plans for the outside and how you'll change the
we'll probably keep it the same, which was we had tables going pretty much all around the outside on the sidewalk, going all the way to the alley. Okay. And we hope to continue. I hope the city lets us do that again.
Yeah, that'd be great. Some people have gotten really creative with the outdoor space, and it seems like some businesses that had such a small interior space to begin with, they've opened up a larger exterior space. I think they're doing better than they ever have.
That could be. That could be. We have about the ability to do about 60 seats.
Okay.
So that's actually quite a bit for us.
Yeah.
And we did, when we reopened over the summer, did really well the first week. And then after that, it was kind of like people just weren't coming out. So that's why I decided to close, because we just weren't doing enough business.
It made sense. People were scared.
People
at
were
that
scared.
time.
Exactly.
What is your normal occupancy of the building?
It is a couple hundred.
I don't know
the exact number, yeah.
Because you have such a big space, I imagine. And you said now you're at about 25 people or so capacity, and that's just not enough to really operate this place.
That's right. So that's all we could do, and it just seems silly.
Yeah.
So.
How'd you get into this business in general?
Oh, that's well, I came out to Chicago to work for Quaker Oats. I like to say I was making strategic decisions for Captain Crunch.
Okay.
And then came up with the crazy idea of opening up my own restaurant. And I was so convinced of its impending failure that I only signed a 3-year lease with a 5-year option. And it worked. So I kept going. So here we are almost about 30 years later.
And you have this location, Southport Lanes.
Southport Lanes, I have a brewery called District Brewery Arts, which is in the West Loop. And that's the first of its kind in the country of 4 breweries co-op sort of acting as within one brewery.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and that one's done really well because it was COVID proof when we didn't know, but it's a pour your own brewery, so nobody touches your stuff.
Got it.
So you come in, pour your own beer.
I love those where they have it all on tap and you just go up. Do you guys have like a card system? You just wave the card?
Exactly.
I love that system. It
fun,
it's
really
easy.
Well. Yeah, you can talk to your friends about what beer you're drinking, and then we have a huge parking lot that we converted to a patio.
Okay.
So people come in, they feel very safe, and that's working great. This we had to change the model. I also have a place up in Lincoln Square called Daily Bar and Grill, which is still open, but barely. Sales are down there about 80%, which is tough. And then I have a bowling alley in Hyde Park called 710, which has been closed since the pandemic started.
Okay.
And we hope to get that reopened as well.
So it seems like you diversified in a few different neighborhoods.
Yes.
When did you move to the West Loop?
We did that 2 years ago.
Okay.
So April of 19. We had a place on Lincoln Avenue called Burnt City.
Yeah.
Which was 710 prior to that, and we sold that building and moved to Ashland and Hubbard.
Okay.
So yeah, that's worked. Although over the years, I have definitely been sort of consolidating and selling off some of the places because it's gotten very difficult to make money in the city.
Why is that?
Well, the big thing is property taxes continue to skyrocket, and then also on top of that, just all the wage increases that have been dictated to us that we can't follow up with price increases. So,
yes, because I'm not gonna. If a beer is $6 and you go to $9, I'm just not gonna come here.
That's right. That's right, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And we all want our staff to make more money, but it has the real loss is that you can't just keep charging more and expect that people will continue to pay it. And that's your biggest portion of your cost is humans.
There's a huge push and pull that you're describing of government imposing these things.
Yes.
the business owners not knowing how to respond to them and trying to basically stay in there as long as possible and try to keep everyone fed and hungry or fed when they're hungry and paid. Right. But then there's you.
Right, and ultimately we're the ones that pay the bills.
Yeah.
And there is a point at which you say, you know what, I can't do it anymore. So I think we're at that point, and I think we have to change the restaurant model. And actually we're starting to do that. We're, District Brew Yards doesn't have tipping. We pay people a lot more, and we include things in the price. And I think we started to play around with this here, where we started adding a service charge and eliminated tipping. So we took the service charge, and that way we could equalize wages between the front of the house and the back of the house, and that's what we did. So we started paying people a little bit more, but there's a lot of people that are like, why are you doing that? You know, that's ridiculous. And I said,
because people don't tip.
Well, you don't have to tip. We would include it in the price, but I think most customers, because it's so new, they don't understand. They're like, this is so expensive. Why would you charge $18 for a hamburger? Well, you're doing it anyway. So we're gonna say, you know what, we're gonna charge what we're charging, we'll add the service charge, we'll give that to the staff, so you don't have to worry about paying our servers. We will do it, but you've got to show what the real price is.
You know why I prefer that model? Because when I go out with friends, then you don't have to succumb to that cheap friend who doesn't want to put in and give the right wage for the person, the right tip on top of it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think that's when we did District Brew Yards, that's the hidden benefit of that. If you go with a group, there's no splitting of checks, you're on your own card. You can still be together,
that's a great point.
But there's nobody, oh, you don't have to split it, you're on your card, I'm on mine. So you just eliminate that completely. So it's great.
Was that your idea to do that there?
My team.
Yeah,
it was something that I felt pretty strongly about. But we all talked about it and we said, it's time. But we did it 2 years ago. Now it's really good, because people are like, don't touch my stuff. You know?
So I counted 4 establishments, is that right?
4 right now, yeah.
4 right now?
There have been as many as, I've opened like 20 over the years.
Wow.
We won't go into all that, you don't need to know this.
And how do you decide when to open the next place or how to close a place? Is it a feeling? Is it purely numbers?
Yeah, the numbers dictate everything.
Yeah.
And you kind of know when the time is up and it's time to move on. At least I do. And you hope you find someone that wants to take it over. When it comes to opening a new place, it's just the process. It's the creative process. It's looking at the deal, saying that, you know, let's do another one, and you hope that you got another one in you. You know, that's what it all comes
Seems like
down
a lot of energy.
It is, but it makes it fun. I mean,
Yes.
it is fun. It's fun to do.
And when you're doing that, when you were completely operational, let's say 2 years ago, what was your total staff count?
We probably had 150 people.
Wow.
Working for us. Yeah. As we've had as many as 350.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. So when you see a mandated wage increase of what we went up, the city of Chicago went up 67% over the course of a few years, and you'll never make that up in sales. That's when I really said it's time.
Got it.
So here we are. And then a pandemic, that kind of put the rest of everybody.
So that made it easier for you to make that decision.
Well, it did. I don't want to blame the pandemic, but I think there's going to be, unfortunately, there'll be a little bit of a thinning of the herd in restaurants. And I think the big losers are going to be independent-owned restaurants, which is a shame, because that middle tier restaurant, there are going to be way fewer of those, because you just can't afford to do it anymore. And there's not as much capital out there to do it.
For that business.
Yeah, banks aren't going to lend. It's going to get tougher and tougher.
What do you think of ghost kitchens?
We tried to do it years ago.
Okay.
It's funny, at Burnt City, we never had good business in the summer for our bowling alley, so we came up with 4 ghost kitchen ideas run out of the same place, and it's really hard to get traction. We had like a vegan idea, we had a wing idea, wings and I can't remember what the names of these were, but it was really hard to get traction on that. And I think brick and mortar does matter, I think, to a certain extent. And I think ghost kitchens do fit a bill, but I don't think you can make enough money to make that work. But that's just me. Some people are doing it, obviously. We'll see.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
You're seeing ghost kitchens being run out of everywhere from a Chili's to all these mainstream restaurants, and people have no idea that it's even happening.
That's right. So I don't know. I don't do a lot of ordering on GrubHubs and DoorDash and things like that, mostly because I'm biased against them because they take such a huge fee.
So much. I mean, it's up to 35%.
Yeah, it's really hard for us.
It's egregious.
It is. And they've limited it now in Chicago, but prior to that, so I go to the individual business website.
Me too. I'm the exact same way.
We thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, because you know where the money's going.
That's right.
And as much as you want to support a business like, let's say, GrubHub or UberEats, I'd rather support the local person and not siphon the money off to somebody else.
And that's what's been happening all these years. And it's really hard. That's why I say the ghost kitchen idea is just really hard to make that work, because they take such a big chunk.
So I remember coming here and there'd be different vendors that would come. You guys had a fry guy, you had a guy for everything, it seemed.
Right.
How does that process work when you're ordering the food? How do you choose the vendors?
We would go through a process where we would taste out something. Most of the things that we did here, we tried to make in-house. A few items we spec'd out, and we ended up going with, I think at the time, Cisco.
Okay.
And they spec'd out a product specifically to what we wanted. So we would go with them, and I don't remember who we would just have a tasting. We would go out to Cisco's kitchens. Their corporate chef would say, okay, here's our version of the chicken finger that you're interested in, and they'd give us like 5 or 6 choices, and we'd pick one. I think probably till most recently, we were probably doing most of it in-house.
Okay.
And we had just a couple of products that we had from out-of-house, and they had to be good. They had to pass our panel, our internal panel of taste tests to make it go.
And when you're opening this up, do you hire a chef and the chef makes these decisions from there? What does that creative process look like to create your menu?
Well, we've had corporate chefs from over time, a couple here and there.
When you say corporate chef, what does
Like
that mean?
means that with all our places, we had a culinary director or a chef who would help us do menus and execution, and then teach our staff how to make everything. And that's happened over the course of the last 30 years. We probably had 2 or 3 over the years that did that. And then we hooked up some culinary skills that are managers for us, so they would help us do that well. But it's really a team effort. You know, we try to get something going that's going to work, that's cost effective, and then most importantly, it's got to be really good. So we have to know that it's going to taste good, or else it doesn't even matter. But it's all team. It's all the team developing that stuff.
The success that you've had over the years, is there any one key attribute you can attribute to what happened?
That's a tough one, but you know what? I have to say we've had a great team all these years. I know you mentioned Morgan. She was with us for a long time, and she's like the prototype. I mean, she would probably still be with us today, except she had to leave town, you know, for whatever reason. So I think we've had a group of people that's been part of this for a really, really long time. And I would say, like, I'm just happy that they're still with me all these years. And that's why during the pandemic, I tried to keep as many people on the team together as I could. And because I don't want them scattering to the wind, even though we're losing money every week. But what we've done is, like, our managers of the place that have closed have come back and worked for us at places that are open.
Okay.
Fortunately, like I said, there's PPP coming, which will help us keep them. But I think keeping the team together is of the utmost importance. And if you have a good team, I think that's the key to all of it. You know, key to the success, and working together, and everybody has a good time working. So hopefully they stick around, they keep doing. We've had some of the same people for a long time.
How long?
Some people since 1991. We've had, I'd say
That's 30 years.
That's 30 years.
That's unbelievable.
The shortest tenured manager I have has probably been with me 20 years. That's crazy. But my core team's been with me since the late 90s.
Anyone I ever met here that worked here seemed invested.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so hard to find. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to do the interview here today, because you seem to have an extra touch to make these things work. And maybe it's the lack of a touch, like the lack of letting people.
We give people a lot of autonomy.
That's what I noticed. That's what it seemed like. Because when Morgan worked here, I don't know if she was running it, but it seemed like she was running the place, and the place worked, and you could see how much joy that brought her to have someone entrust her with that responsibility and then see her succeed doing it.
I hope that's the case. I mean, we definitely let people be autonomous. You know, it's funny, I have a brew team, right? I've not once gone to them and said, here's what I want to see in a beer. I just say, okay, whatever you guys want to do, but pay attention to what the market's telling you. You know, pay attention to what the data tells you, and then that will set you free. You know, the numbers will set you free. So I don't get involved in any of that. I just try to create a framework where they can succeed, which means we'll succeed. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't know if it ever...
It's smart. I feel like that's all you can do in business. If you try to over-control everything, it's not going to work. You can't have your hands on too many things.
And I can't do it all. Yeah. And I'd be nowhere. I mean, when I first started, I did everything. I was the general manager, I was the bookkeeper, I was the party planner, I was the chef, And that got tiring after a while. So
it'll take its toll on you.
Yeah, it was a rough first couple years. I remember so after I'd been doing this, well, really it was 1997. I was like, I'd been doing it since '89, and we lost in like a couple weeks. We lost our bookkeeper. We lost I can't remember who else. And I was renovating a house at the time, and I'm like, if I didn't own the company, I would have quit. That's how tough it was. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I made a couple hires that summer of '97, and they're still with me today.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I didn't hire them, one's my director of operations, Greg O'Mackey. If I didn't hire him, and if I didn't hire Janice, who's my bookkeeper all these years, I would have folded a long time ago.
Do you own most of your locations?
I own, building-wise, gosh, I do now. There's just one that I leased from the University of Chicago.
Okay. The one in Hyde Park?
One in Hyde Park, and they've been great to us. They really...
It's probably a good landlord.
It's a great landlord. They're very understanding, and they want to work with us to make it successful. But owning your own place gives you a lot of flexibility, because if the rent's due and you can't afford to pay, you could say, my right hand can talk to my left hand and say, hey, I need a rent credit this month.
Yes.
But I have a lot of tenants too. I have a lot of tenants, and I treat them the same way I would treat myself, which is, okay, what's going on? There's no reason for us to evict a tenant that's going through the pandemic. So we really try to work with them, and hopefully they stay, because it's better if we keep them. As we were talking before we started this, better to keep a paying tenant even if they're not paying as much than to be out there and not have anything.
I couldn't agree more. I always see landlords who want to raise their rent $50 and their tenant's going to leave. The tenant tells them that if you raise this, I just can't afford to do it, and they do it anyway. And then they're out thousands.
That's right. You never make it up.
Yes.
No rent increase in the world can make up for a lost month.
Yes.
So you got to be aware of that, and you got to be reasonable. Reasonableness is, I think, the key to everything.
Did starting in the restaurant industry get you into real estate?
Yes.
Okay.
I always knew that's what I want. Actually, one of my first jobs, first job offers, I should say, was in real estate. And I decided to go with the marketing thing at Quaker Oats, like I said. But I was always intrigued by it, and I love that I started it so soon, so early. Bought several buildings without any money, with owner finance, because I didn't have any money when I first started.
That's great. You could find seller finance buildings.
Exactly. Well, you got to find someone desperate enough. And
how did you do that? How did you find those people?
You just ask the question. Fortunately, in those days, the values weren't, like this building was an owner finance building.
Really?
We put down, I think we borrowed, or we had, my partner and I at the time, I think we put down 10%. So we had enough money to do 5% each, and that's all we could afford. They financed it at a very nice interest rate, because this was back in the early 90s interest. I think they were at like 9%.
Okay. Because you're just coming out of the 80s where interest rates were 20, 18%.
Right. So they got a nice interest rate, and then when we finally got a bank finance one, which was probably 4 or 5 years later, they were very upset, because they really liked the monthly income.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. So we bought 3 buildings owner finance to get us going, and then it was a great time to do it, because values were going up so high in the early 90s that we were able to take the increase in value to borrow the money to actually start doing other deals.
So is that how you got your empire started?
Yeah. Wouldn't say empire, my business.
Your business, yes.
But that's because I came to Chicago with not knowing anybody, with a couple $100 in my pocket. That was it.
Where'd you come from?
Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah,
why Chicago? For the job?
Came for the job, out of college. So got an offer. I said, I'll go to Chicago. Like I said, I figured it would last a few years, and I would go back to business school or something, and use my business failure as a application question answer to a question. Failure. You learn a lot from your failures. I will say that. And fortunately, it didn't happen at first. It happened later. I had plenty of failures. But that's a whole other conversation.
What's one of your best failures?
Gosh, one of my best failures so far is really, it's a very crazy story with trademarks. I had the trademark Lucky Strike.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the cigarettes?
No.
Or the
for bowling alley.
Yeah.
So we were called Lucky Strike on Lincoln Avenue. And then
I remember they had a sign, right? There was a bowling alley?
There was a bowling alley.
I remember that.
Okay, so it was Lucky Strike in 1995, very successful. And in 2005, now I only had the mark in Illinois because of the cigarette company. So these folks came from Hollywood, Lucky Strike Hollywood. They were filing for a national trademark. And I just kind of forgot about it and didn't, because the cigarette company was popping. Anyway, so we ended up selling the mark to them. And the only reason we then became 710. The only reason I bring that up is because this one business kept going through these trademark issues. Then we named it 710, and then I decided to put a brew pub on Lincoln next to the bowling alley, and we called it Atlas Brewing Company. We got into some trouble with that trademark. It's the same building, had all these trademark issues. Ended up going to court over this name, and we made some mistakes that I didn't know about. Anyway, bottom line is we lost a lot of money. All the money I had sold the mark for, I blew in this trademark.
Oh, no.
So we changed it to Burnt City because obviously we got burned by the trademark process. But because of that process, a whole lot of things changed. I know this is a very long story, but we ended up, our can company wouldn't sell us pre-printed cans. So we started doing labeling. We were very early into labeling our beer cans.
I love the labeling. It gives you so much flexibility.
Exactly.
It's the coolest labels ever, too.
And you can change them like that.
Yeah.
So we brew everything in empty cans, blank cans, and we wrap them. Of course, my brew team was not happy about this, but I said, this is the right thing to do. That was one time where I said, we're not doing that anymore.
How long ago did you start doing that?
We started doing that in 2015.
Okay. Yeah,
So
because I
very
feel like
early.
that's really picked up in the last 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
So you were ahead of the curve.
We were way ahead of the curve. But then what we started doing is we started making beer for other breweries. We started contract brewing because they didn't have to spend all this money on cans. So we started brewing for like Hop Butch, I don't know if you know craft beer, Illuminated, Hop Butcher, Marz Brewing, Around the Bend.
You're brewing for Marz too?
We did a couple batches for them.
Okay. I love Marz. That's my favorite brewery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you name a beer, we've probably made a lot of them. And I got this feel. I said, wait a minute. If we can do any beer we want, why don't we keep doing this and see what happens? And then I went to Revival Food Hall, and
Cool place.
great place. And I said, how come there's no food hall for beer? And that's when I said, I'm going to create a food hall for beer. So District Brew Yards is, if you imagine a food hall for beer, we have 4 different breweries. And it only happened because we lost our trademark. We had to label beers, and we had the flexibility to make beer. Now we make beer for Bulldog Beer Company, Casa Humilde, which is a startup they're doing great. It means humble house in Spanish.
Okay.
Around the Bend, and our brand Burnt City. And the 4 of us together are so much stronger than any one of us would be alone.
It's a true collective.
It's a true collective. We share information, we share strategies, we share recipes, and it's been 2020. We did more sales than we did in 2019. So that's incredible in a pandemic. So there you go. So that was my.
We should do a
failure.
Tour there with your brewmaster. That'd be
We
cool.
would be happy to. We would be happy
awesome.
to. So that was really a failure that we turned into something pretty spectacular. And if you go in there, you haven't been there, but if you go there, you'll be like, wow, there's something here that I've not seen. And it's probably, when I look at the faces of our customers, I've never seen people so excited to be someplace as I do at District Brew Yards. That's a big statement for someone that's done this for 30 years.
Yeah.
More than 30 now.
So do you do private labels? Like if I wanted to put Grafft on a can, you could do something like that?
We could do we would have to take a beer that we were already ready to can.
Yes.
But we've done that for like weddings. We did, I'll give you a perfect example, Harry Carey's. We did their anniversary beer, and we used our pale ale that we typically make. We were making their beer actually for a while anyway. It was an amber ale, I think. But we put Harry Carey's, their logo on the can for their anniversary, and they gave away like 150 cases of their beer. So yes, we can do that very
That sounds like a great business for you to be in.
It's not a business, it's not in and of itself something, but it's a nice add-on to what we're doing.
Yes. Well, just to have the option to really do anything for any company if they want to come to you, whether it's a brewery, if it's 3M and they want to give beers to their customers, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can do a lot of that. And we've done weddings where people put their wedding invitation or their picture on the can. We've done that too.
It's awesome flexibility.
Great flexibility, and that's been really great. You can keep private insurance. That's not going away. But if you had a public option without depending on employers and just did it through taxation, you could tax the plans, because those who have good plans, they probably are the higher end. Tax the plans, tax other things to pay for people so that if they don't get it through their employer, they don't lose everything. And this whole pandemic has just shown the inequality
Yes.
of healthcare. And you don't need to do it. You can just look at it anecdotally and see, this is a problem.
Well, it's amazing because this pandemic has exposed everyone in hospitality and service.
Yeah.
That's who's really been affected.
Yeah.
I have a few friends that have lost their jobs. Very few.
Yeah.
The rest of them are working more, working from home.
All right, doing fine.
Doing just fine.
Yeah.
No effect on them.
We are not doing fine.
Yeah.
We're, my industry, I haven't had without PPP, I wouldn't be able to make $1.
Yeah, I believe
In fact,
that.
I pay money to work. I'm probably losing right now, exhausting my lines of credit to the tune of about $15,000 a week.
Well, I didn't want to go there, but I was wondering, you must be out a lot.
Ton.
You have a lot going out.
It's $15,000 a week.
And no one realizes that.
Nobody
Nobody
cares.
No one cares. They don't
That's
understand
fine.
what it takes. You own these buildings. You have these employees. You have everything running, and you don't. It's so hard to step away. I can't imagine how difficult it was for you to really close your doors.
I've never done it before. Can't even imagine it. It was really
never
hard.
done it?
No, never. I've sold a place, but I've never just shut down.
Yeah.
I always took great pride in the fact that I never just shut a business. I've always sold it, got to the next thing. But yeah, this was a shut. It was weird. It's been a very strange 12 months. I mean, because we were doing pretty well. We were starting to make money again in the first quarter of last year. I'm like, oh, okay, finally. I remember went off to vacation like in March with my wife, and we were off
2020.
In 2020,
Oh, wow.
It was the week before everything went to hell.
Yeah.
And I was just like, things are going so well. I just paid off my credit card, but I just
my
put in
God.
it was just like, I'm so excited. And
Where
then
did you go?
Well, I don't ski, but we went to Idaho, went to Ketchup, Sun Valley, I guess. Her son skis, And it turns out that Idaho hadn't had a case of COVID. It turns out that was a hot spot because all these people were flying in from other places. But when I left on I left town here on a Tuesday. The next day, the NBA shut down its season, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
This is real.
This is really bad. They announced it was a pandemic, and then I'll never forget. I came back Saturday, and I went over to and they were just weird. The vibe was weird, and the next day I was like, shut it down. We have to shut this. There's no reason for us to be open right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on, and that's when I called a bunch of people. Hey, I need some money. I called my dad. I'm like, hey, we own a building together. I said, tell you what, in Virginia, I said, can you lend me $100,000 against future? He's like, whatever you need. So borrowed the money, kept it going until I was literally down to my last $180 because I had put everybody on half pay, and that's when the PPP came and disaster loans. I'm like, so I paid them back. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
It was awful. That was terrible. But yeah, it's been rough, but nobody, like I said, nobody really cares. At least we're alive, we're healthy.
I hope there's light at the end of the tunnel.
I think there will be.
Is.
I feel really good. I think we're surviving is winning.
Yeah.
Both physical survival and then financial survival. If we can get through to the other side, I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape. That's why I think we'll do well here if we reopen.
Well, this is such a community-driven place too that I think as soon as you open back up, everyone's going to be back here. Everyone's going to want to be right back here, bowling.
They're going to
pool.
appreciate what they lost.
Yes.
And I think what struck me those last 2 weeks when I announced I was going to close is just Morgan came in from. I mean.
Yeah, she came in just for that.
Just for that,
yeah.
And I was blown away. But actually, she asked me if she could take a poster, and I said absolutely. It was funny. She's like, "Can I ask you something?" I'm like, "What do you need?" And she said, "I've been eyeing this for years." I go, "Take it." And then I think I started a bad trend.
Yeah, someone saw her walk out with it. It's all her fault.
That's why I have no one to blame but me. I'm like, take it, whatever. People took all the pins.
You took the pins?
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Pins are nothing.
Are they? Okay. Yeah.
They're $8 a piece or whatever.
Okay.
I'm like, you can get more pens. If that meant, really what I should have done is put Southport Lanes, 2020.
Mementos for things.
Yeah,
people
and
to take.
then have someone sign them or something. I don't know. Actually, the one piece I've lost that I'm really upset about is I had an autographed picture of a guy named Chris Schenkel. This probably predates you, but there used to be this bowling program on Saturdays, Pro Bowler Tour or whatever. And this was on ABC, I think, and Chris Schenkel was the play-by-play guy.
Uh-huh.
He was he was the voice of bowling. And he came in here and gave a signed autograph to the owners before me, Leo and Ella, and we put it up on the wall over there. Somebody took it. That's the only thing that I'm really upset about losing.